Good evening, everyone. Glad that everyone could make it today to listen to Wendy a little bit from Northeastern. We're really glad that she could make it and kind of tell us a little bit more about the campus culture, the community, given a lot of seniors are getting ready for admissions, or maybe there's a couple students who are wanting to do a little research early. Really great for them. I'll go through kind of the typical webinar items, given we haven't done one in a little bit. Feel free to put things in Q&A and in chat. We'll try to get to as many questions, and we're going to reserve some extra time at the end of this webinar today so that we can go over all the information. I'll jump off in a little bit, and then Azure and Wendy will chat for a little bit. Wendy has a whole presentation prepared for us so that we can kind of go through the many different ways that you can get into Northeastern and the different programs that they have. And then from there, I'll come back and answer or kind of toss those questions to Wendy. So feel free, again, open up Q&A, open up chat, feel free to put things there. And then I'll pass it over to you, Azure and Wendy. Have a good day.
Thanks, Anthony. Yeah, Wendy, thanks for joining us today. I know that Northeastern does have so many options that we get a lot of questions and with students trying to figure out what the right option is for them. So we can go ahead and get started with your presentation, and then we can talk a little bit.
Awesome. Thank you so much to both of you, Anthony and Azure, for inviting me to speak to your community. And so my name is Wendy Snyder. I use she, her pronouns. And I'm actually situated here on the Oakland campus of Northeastern, which is a new development. And so there's about 20 slides here. I'm just going to go through, and I look forward to your questions. So here we go. So Northeastern has a lot of unique qualities. One is that it is a top-tier research institution that really focuses on bringing the experience that you develop by doing something called co-op into your education and really informing the things that you're studying and vice versa. And also just Northeastern has, as Azura referred to, many different programs that allow students to experience just living in other countries, living on different campuses, and really encourages students to find their own unique way to do college and also gain work experience. So I'm going to get into all those things. And just our global network, it's pretty exciting because I joined Northeastern, for full transparency, just in June. Before that, I was a high school college counselor. So it's pretty fun and interesting to be on this side of the desk. And just Northeastern is a very dynamic institution. Most of you probably know about the Boston campus, and that is sort of the quintessential college town, and Northeastern. I just went to the Boston campus a couple weeks ago. It's just a very vibrant campus that has just is in the hub of Boston and has 15,000 students there. The Oakland campus, where I'm situated, is a new development. It used to be Mills. We actually refer to it as Northeastern at Mills Northeastern. You might hear Northeastern Oakland, and it's a very different vibe here, I would say, with 135 acres. It's more of an enclosed campus. It is in East Oakland, kind of up in the mid hills of East Oakland, and just has that kind of small college feel to it. The London campus is a very unique situation, and I'll talk more about that as well. That's in the heart of the city and actually near some of the landmarks in London, and really has that city feel to it. So Northeastern has many different colleges and programs, nearly 300 majors, and what's called combined majors, which I'll talk a little bit more about. And it's unique in that it has well-respected industry experts and professors who are all involved in research, and you have access to those professors with our really great student to faculty ratio, as you can see. And I think Northeastern really prides itself on allowing students to personalize their education and follow their passions and not just be kind of siloed into one area of study, but it's encouraged to study multiple subjects. So in Oakland, these are the foundational majors that we're starting with. I know it sounds small, but they're in development to roll out even more majors. But those are the 4 majors. And on the next slide, I'll show you the combined majors and talk a little bit about that. If you don't know what you want to study and you want to come to the Oakland campus, Discover Oakland is a program for those who haven't decided on a major. And then everybody in Oakland gets access to entrepreneurship and learning how to be an entrepreneur and having that experience of creating a business. And that's really exciting, just given that that's so close to Silicon Valley. And next slide, this shows you the combined majors. So the combined majors are not double majors. And the difference being that if you study business administration with economics, you're going to have your business studies informed by the study of economics. And you're also going to have your economics studies informed by business. So in other words, the courses aren't going to be necessarily all separate. There are specific courses that the School of Business and the School of Communication Studies, for example, have designed to really just enrich the intellectual life of the classroom and just look at subjects from different perspectives. So that's what a combined major is. And combined majors are designed so that you can graduate in 4 years. So it's not like sometimes when people do double majors, they end up taking longer than 4 years to graduate. So that's the Oakland campus. The London campus has a few more areas of study. They've been around since 2019. And what's unique about London is that you can get a degree in the UK in 3 years. That's how they do it over there. And you can come back to Boston for your 4th year and get and obtain a US degree. So that's pretty unique. And so in the next slides, I'm just going to highlight some of the things that make Northeastern unique. The first one is the co-op, and perhaps many of you have heard of co-op. Co-op is just short for cooperative, and it's the cooperation between the university and many, many different big and small companies, as well as nonprofits. And so the co-op is something that students have access to their 2nd year. So their sophomore year, they're going to have a co-op advisor in addition to their academic advisor. And the co-op advisor will coach them through the process of getting their resume together, deciding on what they would like to do in the co-op so they can work in all kinds of industries, getting their interviewing skills together. And in the spring, they will spend, actually January to May, they will spend that time in their co-op and actually get paid. So it's not an internship. It's similar to an internship, but not like an internship because it's a real job and you're actually getting work experience on your resume. And so this is where you're looking at, do I want to work in health sciences, right? Do I want to work in tech? What are the things that people do all day in those fields? And that can inform, many students change their major, when they experience their co-op and either decide they love something or decide it's not for them. And that's all very good information. Northeastern has a network worldwide, so these are not employers that you're having to search for. You get a lot of support in accessing those jobs, and you also can create your own. So it's really encouraged. The creativity is really encouraged. You also can do up to 3 co-ops, although that might make it so you graduate a little bit longer, then you would take a little longer than 4 years. So that's the co-op experience. And this slide is really just introducing to you, and some of you may already be in the Common App, and maybe you have Northeastern on there and you can see some of these programs. Actually, the first two in particular, I'll highlight because the NU In program is something that you might say that you would be interested in, because it is an opportunity to go with a cohort of students to another country, and most of them aren't currently in Europe right now, but you would go to that city, you would study in that city with a group of students, about 150 students. Then you would come back and the second semester of your first year, and you would come back to the Boston campus. So it's simply a different way to get started at Northeastern. And if you're open to that, definitely put that as one of your preferences on the Common App. The Global Scholars Program is a way that you can experience all three of the main campuses. So we have 300 Global Scholars students who just started here in Oakland. And in the spring, they'll go to London. And then their second year, they'll go to they'll go to the Boston campus. And then vice versa, some students are starting in London and then coming to Oakland and then returning to Boston for the rest of their college experience. The Dialogue of Civilizations is something that we just want to mention because it's a very unique 6-week program during the summer, where an even smaller group of students would go with a professor to some part of the world and study that part of the world. And so this is something that is offered to students, as well as the global co-op. I mentioned when I was talking about co-op that there are up to 3,000 opportunities worldwide. So you might actually work in another country as part of your co-op. And then we also offer a more traditional study abroad program, which would be most likely a semester somewhere your junior year. So this just talks about the fact that we are an R1 global research institution, and that you can actually start doing research as early as your first year. It's not just, the picture shows kind of a STEM, situation, but the research could be in the social sciences, it could be in humanities, it could be in any subject. We have a database, and students gain access to that and can pursue, their interests in research. And that's something very unique. Not all institutions allow undergraduates that access to research. Service learning, we do have a lot of service learning opportunities, which you may know is a volunteer experience. So you're not getting paid, but you're making a difference in your community. So for example, here in Oakland, we have a lot of connections with community organizations and surrounding the campus, and students have the ability to bring their skills to those community organizations. It's also a very important partnership that the university has with the local community. And so just wanted to highlight that. And then this just talks about the fact that we have students from all over the world, and that's what makes us the #2 leading host institution. We have students from all 50 states, and we're really committed to building a diverse student body. This also lays out just who we have here on the Oakland campus. We have about 500 first-year degree-seeking undergraduates, as well as the global scholars that I mentioned that will be here for a semester before they go to London. We also have some graduate students, and as well as some continuing Mills College students. We have, I think, about 100 students who were formerly at Mills College. So just to say that students can really get involved, I just went over to what they call the Center for short, because it's a really long name that I haven't memorized yet, but it's like a Center for Student Life and Engagement. And it's really a vibrant place. It's really easy to set up a student organization or a club or intramural sports team. It's just, you have to get, I think, one other student and a professor to sign, and then your student organization, you have access to resources, you have access to meeting space and all that kind of thing. The Boston campus is very well known also for, on a bigger scale, having many different cultural centers and activities and sports teams. So just to say a few things about that. On campus here, we have students who students are guaranteed housing, and they're actually required to live on campus their first year, with some exceptions of students who maybe live in the area. Maybe they live in Berkeley or San Leandro, if you know this area, or they live in Oakland. And so there's a handful of students who don't live on campus, but the majority do. And we also have the living learning communities that are sort of organized by different themes. We have great food in our dining hall that they actually use some of the food from I forgot to mention, the Mills Community Farm, which I actually get my produce and my flowers from there every week. And so that's a really great feature of the Oakland campus. So this is basically, because the Oakland campus is so new, a lot of students are really wanting to go to Boston, and we want them, of course, my bias is, stay here in Oakland for all 4 years. However, we do have this message so that students know that if they're not finding what they want on the Oakland campus, because maybe they changed their major, they can transfer to the Boston campus their second year. And then admissions. Okay, so this actually just gives you a little bit of an overview of the ways that you can join the Northeastern community. And just to say that for Boston and Oakland, that's pretty straightforward on the Common App. You also would check if you were open to doing the NU In program, which what I mentioned was that's the program where you're going to another country for 1 semester before you go to Boston. And then Global Scholars is the Oakland, London, or London, Oakland, and then back to Boston. You can put those preferences in. NU Immerse is a program that we always want to mention, because it's for students who for whom English is not their first language. And so this is only on the Boston campus, but NU Immerse will help them get up to speed with their academic English, and they'll still be getting their credits in their courses. So that's what that is. And we do review your application holistically. This will be my first time reviewing applications, and I'm really excited about that. I've been on the other end helping students with their essays, but we are really looking for academic rigor. We're looking for, for students who have been successful academically and also been engaged in their community in some kind of way. That doesn't mean that they're all student leaders and student body presidents, that kind of thing, but some form or fashion that you've been engaged, with your community to make it a better place. It could be something very much behind the scenes, but we're just looking for that involvement, that passion that you can then bring to the Northeastern campus. We are going to be test optional at least till 2026. So I just want to say, if you're pretty confident in your test taking skills and you want to send us your scores, please do. However, it's not going to count against you if you don't send the scores and if you're not a good test taker. So feel free to not send us the scores, and that's completely fine as well. So just a review of the deadlines that we have. And of course, many of you probably know that early decision, you're making a commitment to Northeastern, and we have two we call early, even though one's November and one's January. And that's when you're making that binding commitment. Early action, you can apply to multiple places, early action, and then our regular decision. So, and then financial aid, of course, everybody wants to, understand how you're going to pay for school. And I just want people to know that we have about 15% of our students who do receive the merit aid awards. So that's $30,000 per year. We also guarantee that we're going to meet 100% of your needs based on the FAFSA, a free application for federal student aid, as well as the College Board's CSS. So, and you must be a US citizen or permanent resident. And we guarantee that we're going to meet that need even as tuition increases. And then finally, this is the last slide. So this statistic is actually, I think, even at 98% for the 2022 graduates, but I think it's really impressive to know that you're among, students who are successful in obtaining employment and getting into graduate school, for the most part. It's nearly 100%. And it's because of that co-op work experience, I'm convinced. And many of the students end up working for a co-op employer. So yeah, that's my presentation, and I'm looking forward to answering your questions.
Thank you. Yeah, that was really helpful. I know it's sort of complicated to explain all the different opportunities that Northeastern has. And before we, I have a few questions for you before we get into Q&A. But why don't we start with, what is your role at Northeastern and how did you get into admissions?
Yeah. So I am an assistant director of admissions. So I'm brand new to the field, but not brand new to the overarching field, which is supporting students in going to college. So I have been, for the last 12 years, I've been doing academic support and coordination at Oakland School for the Arts, which is a public charter school, arts charter school. And then for the last 6 years, I've been the college counselor at Oakland School for the Arts. So it's been a great run, and I just was looking for something that was, I don't know, just a little different. And I was kind of keeping my eye on what was happening over at Mills College with the merger, and actually went to a counselor breakfast back in December. It was a very rainy day, and I'm like, what's happening over here? And then a couple months later, I applied and got the job. And so yeah, it's very interesting. I do miss working directly with students. So, that's one thing, like if anybody's out there that just, wants, I love interacting with students. So I think I'm missing that a lot. But anyways, that's the answer to your question. So yeah.
Great. And Mills this is the first full year of enrollment. Is that right? The Mills campus for Northeastern, is that right? So it is pretty brand new. And but in terms of maybe Northeastern in general, what do you think is the greatest change for admissions and your college campuses in general these days?
I mean, I think that the biggest change is really just getting the word out that Northeastern has different ways to join the campus. I think that students, well, I know people are confused in Oakland, like what is going on over there, because they see a new name, but they still see Mills College. So I think that is really different. Just having to having students understand and families the full range of Northeastern programs and first year pathways, and just the way that they can join the institution, and the fact that they're going to get coming to the Oakland campus or the London campus, they're still going to have access to the same things that a Northeastern student in Boston would have.
Good. And I mean, I think it's true for a lot of popular colleges, but would you say for Northeastern, like the volume of applications have been going up in recent years?
Most definitely.
Yeah. So it is pretty competitive. So it's nice to have these different options. Can you share a bit about just the Northeastern admissions process? Like sort of how does that work?
So being new to it, I'll do my best.
Okay, I
I think
understand.
it is still very centralized to Boston, and I know that I will be reading applications from the Bay Area and also my territory in Oregon. So we are getting a lot of training around that. So I can't say too much, but I will say I know we will be spending a lot more time on looking at those essays, in light of the fact that we're not looking at the test scores, and we're also just, in light of the Supreme Court decision too, we're really just looking to build a diverse student body by looking at the students' stories and activities you've been involved in. And so I think yeah, I don't know, this will be my first cycle going through this. So I think I know that we read together in teams. There's some sort of like yeah, I haven't been trained yet, but I know that it's a very collective process. At the same time, we're responsible for reading a lot of applications. So yeah, I'm looking
So
forward to reading all
it
your
sounds like the same people will be reading the same high school so that you can kind of see students in context. Is that right?
Yeah, and I think that's an important point. Like, students need to understand that we are looking at your high school, those high school profiles, they're called school profiles that the counselors give us. Those tell us a lot about what what your school is offering, so that we're not judging you on like how many APs you took, if your school doesn't offer many. We're really trying to look at you in the context of what was available for you and what opportunities you took.
And so this is the year we're hearing so much about ChatGPT. And so, we get questions about it. I think some of our students are wondering like how many people are going to be using it to write their college essays. On the admission side, are you aware of any changes in terms of how you read the applications?
So I actually asked Brendan Graham, who is the director of undergraduate admissions for Oakland, and he said we just don't really know yet. We're going to be looking for that your voice as a student and just seeing how that comes through. So if you're using ChatGPT to kind of generate ideas, fine, but make sure that you're really telling your story in your own voice. And so I don't know much more than that. I know that, I think students are becoming familiar with different screenings to see, maybe their teachers are using to see if they've used ChatGPT to write an essay. We'll likely be using those as well. But I think the main thing is for you to understand that we're going to be able to pick up on whether it's your unique voice or if you're relying on ChatGPT a little bit too much. And so I would just keep that in mind.
Okay. And another question we get from students is, because Northeastern doesn't have supplement essays, they just have the personal statement. Sometimes they wonder if they should write about their resume instead of something personal for the main essay. What do you think about that?
I wouldn't recommend writing about your resume. I would recommend just, telling a story where you're authentically describing the ways in which you've grown as a person, and that might include some of the things that are on your resume in terms of your experience, but you're going to have your activities list. We're going to see, you don't need to repeat the things that you're already sharing. I think that the essays that kind of stay with us after we read them really they show a little bit of vulnerability, in what you're talking about, and revealing something about your character. That's really what we're looking for, is who is this person, behind these words. And so we don't want just to know about every wonderful thing you've done, although, that's great too, but that can go on the activities list.
So great. And what do you think is one of the more misunderstood parts of admissions?
Yeah, I like that question. I think that it is so hard to keep this in mind, when you're 17 years old and having all this pressure on yourself, but just keep in mind that there are so many wonderful students who are getting rejected, and you're one of them, right? And so to understand that rejection is part of this process, it's a hard lesson to learn, but I think that, being prepared for that and trying your best not to take it personally, is really important, because, and I think it was someone called Brene Brown who said, like, comparison is the thief of joy, right? And so, really try to take that to heart, that you are a unique human, and it's a numbers game. So yeah, I think that often students will be like, what did I do wrong? And oftentimes it's nothing like that. It's nothing that you did wrong on the application, or nothing that fell short. You're enough, right? And it's just rejection is kind of written into this game. And so be okay with that if you can. And that's probably the hardest thing.
Yeah. Any other advice you have for students that are looking or just starting their admission season right now?
Yeah, I would say really know your priorities of the schools that if you can do early decision, that's great. I know not everyone can make that kind of financial commitment, before knowing what aid you're going to get, but early decision or early action is a really great option. If you, say Northeastern is your number one priority, go for it and focus and get that application in. But I would say advice would be, prioritize your schools, take a little time to rest and do nothing once in a while, even if it's just for 30 minutes, because I think the level of anxiety can be really, really high and really be detrimental to our physical and emotional mental health. So yeah, those would be the two things.
Good advice. I think, Anthony, we're ready to take some Q&A here.
Sounds good. Let's go back to the slides if we can really quick.
Sure. Hang on one second.
I think one of the exciting things about Northeastern is the diversity of the options you have in being a Northeastern student, with all the different campuses and available programs. So I just want to make sure, because there are a lot of questions around the programs of, like, how does NU Immerse work? How does that compare to Global Scholars? I just want to make sure we have a chance to go back and kind of discuss that.
Sure. Yeah. So were there specific questions about it, or do you want me to just go over these again? Because it is a lot.
Just go over it one more time, and then I think I'll try to emphasize kind of the specific things once you've gone through it.
Okay. Yeah. So, the most popular, I think, option is going to be for students wanting to apply directly to the Boston campus. And so that's something you can do, as well as the Oakland campus. Through both of those are going to be through the Common App. The London campus is going to be a little different. It's something called the UCAS. It's UCAS. I don't have the link handy, but it's the United Kingdom's Common App, basically. So those are the three ways you would join, the three different main campuses. The first year programs are NUN is just our lingo for a 1 semester study abroad to start off your college experience, and then you come back to the Boston campus. And then Global Scholars is when you are splitting your first year at Northeastern between the Oakland campus and the London campus, and then returning to Boston. So that's going to be, the Global Scholars is going to be with 300 students that you'll basically travel with. And end up in Boston. And then NU Immerse is a 1-year program for speakers of languages other than English as their first language. And that's on the Boston campus.
Got it. I almost wish like we had a map to showcase options that you had between
I know. It's funny because now I'm like, oh, it all makes so much sense to me. But I remember the first time I heard it, I was like, this is confusing, so don't worry if you still feel a little confused. You can also, reach out to me. I know you'll share my email, and, if you want to speak with any students who are in these programs, just how that went for them.
Can I ask, if you opt for some of these alternate programs, are you increasing your chances to be at Northeastern?
I think you are, because you're applying through Common App and you're letting us know that you are open to these programs. And so, I think that it's a good strategy to be open. That was actually one of the other pieces of advice, like being open to kind of something different. And so I think that will increase your chance if you are a little bit flexible. And that's kind of, one of the values I think of Northeastern is flexibility in terms of, you creating, the education that you want, as well as, different ways that you can access the institution. So
good.
And just to clarify, because I know I heard you mention UCAS as a Common App applicant, can you still opt for Boston, London, or Oakland as the first campus, or is it that if you want to apply for the London campus, you have to do the application as
you have to do it because I noticed a question about the UK degree. Yeah, when you're just applying and having London as your home campus, you apply through the UCAS strictly. Yeah.
And then, I think there was that question was clarifying about how would you get the second degree? Is that like an automatic thing that happens, or is there a different, like, what would a student have to go through if they do want to go to the Boston campus at the end of their 3 years?
They would just simply transfer to the Boston campus. That option is available for them. I think that, there might be maybe some international students who just want the UK degree, or students from the UK. But I think a lot of students will be coming for their 4th year in Boston to get that US degree.
Sounds good. We can definitely, I'll kind of move on to a couple other kind of topics and questions. Of course, if we need to come back to this slide, let me know. Feel free to ping more in the Q&A. A question about the Oakland and London campuses. I guess the question is basically getting at, how has faculty expanded since then? Are there some professors from Boston going to those other campuses? And kind of how has that program kind of been able to be integrated as part of Northeastern?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that I would just say that yes, that's what's happening. I was really pleasantly surprised when I went to Boston and heard from the dean of the college of, it's called CAMD, it's the College of Arts, Media, and Design, talking about all the things that are happening and are in development in Oakland. And, I had been here for a couple months and had no idea. So there's a lot that's in development. I know that London, there's a lot of kind of cross-pollination going on and movement among the faculty back and forth. So yes. Do I know a lot of details about this? No, but I would say that, by joining Northeastern, London campus or Oakland campus, you're going to have access to a lot of different, programs. And in fact, I just ran into a student who I just was chatting with, and she said, "Oh," I said, "Well, because today was the first day of class of classes, and." I said, "Well, how'd your classes go?" And she said, "Well, 2 are in person this week, and then 2 are online." So, there's still, virtual learning happening. I think this student in particular wanted to take a course that was being offered in Boston, and it was offered virtually. So there's also that happening. So yeah, it's a very dynamic process. And I'm sorry, what is the OP program? Someone,
Yeah, I'm not sure what they're specifically referring to.
if you can clarify that, I'm not sure I know what that is.
Feel free. I'll move on to another question, but yeah, I can come back to this as well. A question about how the NU Immerse program works. Basically, an applicant is wondering, like, what if they're unsure about where their TOEFL score is? A way for you to check which program would be more applicable for an international applicant.
You know, that is a really good question that I'm happy to, if you want to email me, is it okay if I just put my email in the chat?
Yeah.
I can get the answer for you because I just don't know, but I would really like to know, like, how do you know if you're ready, you know, if you need the NU Immerse program. So please email me and I will make sure I get somebody who knows the answer to that to tell me, and I'll let you know.
Sounds good. And then just to clarify also, because I think Global Scholars and NUN, and on that other slide, all those things were next to each other. Global Scholars is meant to be that you're between all three of the Northeastern campuses. Is that correct? It doesn't have to do with international students or anything.
That's correct. Yeah. So it's just the name for the program where you would start in either Oakland or London and have a semester in each of those places your first year in Northeastern, and then return to Boston. So yeah, they're just calling it Global Scholars because you're traveling the globe before you end up in Boston.
You know how flexible it is? This is just a tangent question. How flexible is it to say, oh, I really like the London campus, can I stay one extra semester, then decide to go to Oakland? And
so, you know, I have a feeling that is possible. From what I've heard, there's just I think that if you find as a student that you're, you know, really interested in a particular program that is being offered in London, I have a feeling that is something that could be available to you. There seems to be just, yeah, like I said, a lot of flexibility. So
sounds good.
And within that flexibility, though, it sounds like you said that students stay in a cohort. So that's sort of like they're traveling with a group of students. So it still feels like they're building relationships and making connections and so on, which is really nice.
Yeah. And I found because we welcomed students last week, and I found the efforts that Northeastern is making to really nurture community is great. And I think even though students, you know, may be traveling, you know, from campus to campus, they are, like you said, they're in a group of students and they're getting to know those students and they're building connections. So even though they're changing places, they are with, you know, students that they're getting to know and around every day. So
good.
Sounds good. A question around kind of how major is kind of taken into consideration when applying. Do you know if, as admission readers, are you kind of looking at students per major, or is it just admission to the university as a whole?
So what I've been told is that it's admission to the university as a whole, and I think the perspective is really that we're looking for certain criteria around just your engagement with your community, your passion for different subjects, but we know that your course of study might change and will likely change. So yeah, I think any more detail than that, I might have a hard time answering, but I think that, you know, someone was asking me from a high school the other day about just, you know, if they applied, you know, for one particular major that's not in engineering, and then they tried to get into the School of Engineering, like, how would that work? I know that there's a lot of fluidity to a degree, so we are not necessarily looking for X number of students to go to the School of Engineering, X number in computer science, that kind of thing. But yeah, beyond that, I can't really say in terms of numbers, but I think that you're right in that we're really looking, you know, we're looking at the students holistically, we're looking at the majors, but we're looking kind of at the, the student as a whole, and knowing that their studies might, their pursuit of their studies might change.
So it sounds like to an extent there's some flexibility between majors, but to the extent, it may change for each student or each particular major. Let's see. I'm trying to get organized with all the questions really quickly. There's some questions around like early decision, regular decision. It seems like some students just wondering, like, is there an increased chance of me getting in as an ED or an EA applicant compared to the regular decision? I guess how would you recommend students kind of think through that process?
I mean, I think, like I was saying earlier, I think that if you are really excited about Northeastern, I think that you should apply early decision if you can, or early action. I know it's not much time from now, but I think that I know that the acceptance rate is much higher. I don't have those numbers in front of me, but I do know it's, from experience as a college counselor, it's, the track record of students getting in when they apply early, it does, put a little more pressure, on yourself, because you got to get that done by November 1st. But I would say it's probably worth it, because your chances are going to be better. So.
And do you know how that EA-ED interaction works with the various different campus options or global scholars and things like that?
Sorry, no clue. I really don't. But yeah, maybe I'll know more, in a couple months. So.
Also want to give you a chance to kind of highlight the kind of co-ops and internships available as well, since I think that's also an area where a lot of students are interested in Northeastern because of that kind of integrated program. Can you just kind of speak to that a little more?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, our students, they end up doing co-op with very big tech companies, well-known tech companies. They also do their co-ops with smaller companies. They do in the health sciences. I've just been learning a lot about the ways in which, students get their clinical practice, and also the co-ops that are done in the medical field are just way above and beyond what even different interns do from other schools, because they actually have a job in these institutions. So they may be working at a hospital or at a firm, and they're doing everything, not just assisting. And so I would say the co-op experience is very is varied in every single sector. And also, there's one other thing I was going to say about that. Oh, there's been students who've created their own co-ops. So, just to throw out there, a student who was doing her co-op actually in Oakland in the admissions office was talking about one of her friends who developed a music production co-op. And this is a business major who loves music production, and so proposed to be the music producer for a hip hop artist, and got to travel with that artist through the whole summer. So it's very it's vast, and everything under the sun that you could think of. And I think what a wonderful thing to be able to work in a field and be like, no, this is really what I love, working at a law firm, or seeing what a software engineer does every day, and being like, oh, that's not for me. That's all super valuable to your education. And then you bring that back into the classroom and maybe refocus your studies. So hopefully that was helpful.
Yeah, to my understanding, it's also like pretty common for students to do like 2 or 3 co-ops if they want to as well, right? It's not just one and then that's it.
Yeah, if they do more than 2, they're looking at a little bit of longer time before they graduate. But there's summer classes, and that may be okay, because you want that experience, and you're gonna maybe get employed by that third co-op where you're really sure that this is the field that you want to work in. So
This is a great question. So the question is basically why would I think it sounds like a contentious question, but I think it's a fair. Why would a student apply to the newer Oakland campus versus the more established Boston campus? Basically, like, what's the main draw of, Oakland, maybe London, and all these other programs compared to the traditional four-year college experience in Boston?
Well, I would say that applying to Oakland, first of all, if you need to be interested in those 4 foundational majors or have some kind of interest, even if you're Discover Oakland, which is the program I meant to reiterate. Discover Oakland is the program where you can come in undeclared. But I would say the Oakland campus just has a real community feel to it. I mean, literally there's like a meadow, there's redwood trees, there's eucalyptus trees, there's oak trees, there's a trail. And it has that vibe of a small liberal arts campus. So I think that students should come, if you can, come and visit. I think you'll see that it's a great place to be, even if you're going to be here for a semester. I think it's so close to Silicon Valley, to San Francisco, and to the vibrant culture in Oakland. I think that, I have a bias because I live here, but I think that you're going to get all those Northeastern opportunities just in a different environment. So I think encourage you to be open to it. Come visit.
Yeah, and if you're based in the Bay Area, definitely can go and take a look. If you can go back to the slides with the combined majors, I think since we're on the same topic of the Oakland campus and the 4 majors that you were discussing. Sure. Basically a question about just asking a bit more about the combined majors, but I think for some folks it might be this thought of like, how does it compare to a double major or something like that?
Yeah. So it's different from a double major because you're not just studying health science and communication studies separately. These departments are collaborating to create courses, and so some of them are co-taught, but they're collaborating to create courses that are interdisciplinary. So that's, I think, makes it unique in that you're not studying these subjects separate from each other.
And this is also available at the Boston campus and
yes.
the London campus?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I know, I wish I had a slide for that, but that would probably be a very long slide too.
Is there ever a situation where a student may run into, like, let's say it's like, oh, this program's only offered at this distinct campus? Do you know if all the, like, definitely, I remember you said that the Oakland campus only has those 4 specific majors. Is it kind of this thought that, like, if you do global scholars, you need to be within the umbrella of those majors as well?
So global scholars, because they're ending up in Boston, there's a lot more variety amongst, they basically have all the majors that are in Boston open to them. And then I will say, I wish I had a slide for it, but there's, as we speak, there's some majors that are being approved and added to the Oakland campus. So, and I know some of those are in political science and philosophy. So yeah, there's more to come, and I think that will be also added to the Common App. So yeah, I'm sorry I don't have those right now, but yeah, if students, to answer your question, there's students who come to Oakland, say they do Discover Oakland, and then they're like, you know what, I want to study engineering, and I need to be in Boston, then that's where they'll go. So.
And then a question about just need-based scholarships. Is there kind of a percentage, or like, can you talk about like the students that would get need-based scholarships and that evaluation process?
Yeah, so I know that the FAFSA is going through some changes, and I'm sure most people here probably know a little bit about that. I know that is going to just kind of push everything to a little bit later. I'm not sure how that's all going to roll out, but as you know, the FAFSA and the CSS are both the financial tools that we'll be using to evaluate the expected family contribution, which is now going to be called the student. I'm sorry, I forgot what it's going to be called. Something student index. So Northeastern guarantees that we're going to meet 100% of that need. Now, sometimes, I know that the expected family contribution is higher than what the families think that they can pay, but we do have that commitment of meeting 100% need, and all students who fill out the FAFSA and the CSS will be we'll be looking at that to build a student body of diverse students, ethnically, culturally, and economically. So yeah, I don't have much more detail than that, but yeah, please don't be discouraged from applying, looking at our sticker price, because that can be a little scary, but you don't know what you will receive in terms of merit aid and also the need-based aid. So
Belinda in the chat looks like she put student aid index. That's
thank
probably
you. Yeah, I knew it was something kind of dry, but yeah, thank you.
And I think the last question for the night is, what are the characteristics of a student that would receive merit aid or a merit scholarship at Northeastern?
So yeah, so I'm told that about 15% of our students who are accepted receive that aid, and I think it's hard for me to say exactly, but I would say we're looking for students who just have gone a little bit above and beyond, in their academics and their community involvement. So, yeah, that's what I would say.
Do you know if that evaluation process would be kind of together with the admission reading process? Or is it a separate evaluation? It's the same. Got it. Sounds good. Perfect. Appreciate everyone for asking these questions. Again, glad that we could do the full pretty much 30 minutes of questions for Wendy. Wendy, do you mind putting down your email one more time in case folks want to reach out to you?
I'm also going to put the Oakland Northeastern page, just because you might want to come and visit. So
they have campus tours, so that's all open right now.
Campus tours Tuesdays and Fridays, 10 and 2 o'clock. So lots of opportunities to come visit.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, everyone, if you can make that at some point, I think especially for seniors that might be interested in that type of experience, I think that would be great. So perfect. Thanks, Wendy. Thank you, Azure, for your time today. And
thank you so much.
Thank you, Wendy. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye. Have a good evening, everyone.